So it's been a while since I brought a property related video to you. My friend called me up and said, hey, I'd like to show you this cute little spot not too far from Caacupé. I'm always keen to take a ride and see what's going on, particularly if there's a property that's going at a reasonable price with its paperwork in order. And my friend tells me that that's indeed the case with this place. But just as a snapshot, we're actually just outside of the boundary of municipality of Hectare, but this property is up a gentle rise, and you can see just as we go up the driveway here that you can actually see Caacupé from here. So, and that's actually really good, because my understanding is that the property rates in Hectare are cheaper than what they are in Caacupé. You'd have to confirm that, but that's my understanding. So if that's right, well, this property wins in that way alone. But one of the things that was really good about this place was the access to it. Just a very short drive on a cobblestone road, and here we are. And the property is actually really lovely. It's got a gentle sort of undulation up the driveway, and it looks like it's got electricity running to it. There's a quaint little house just up here a bit, but one of the things I really like about this property is that it is on this gentle undulation, and that's really good because you want to have a situation where the water's kind of running away from you rather than sitting on top of you. And we're actually up quite high, so that's a nice feature also. Got a neighbour pretty close by there, but I can't hear anything at all. The only thing I've been hearing is just a little bit of industrial noise several hundred meters away, because there's a stone quarry, but I've been told that that's in the process of winding down because the access to it is quite challenging. So I don't think that's causing too much drama, but the cerro that it's sort of surrounded by, I think would be possibly a good access point for rock and stone if you wanted to do paving and stuff. I've been up there once before and it looked pretty interesting, and I think you could get some good material there if you could get to know the people there, and I'm sure you could. But that's just another feature of the property, but it's really quite lovely up here. And I'm not sure, as I walk along, you might be able to get a glimpse of Caacupé there. I'm told that the property is 7 hectares and they want 800 millioni for it, which by my calculation is a pretty good deal. Whenever I'm looking at property around here, I kind of like to use the rough ballpark of somewhere around 90 mil to upwards of 120, 130 millioni, I should say, per hectare. I think is a reasonable price point. But like I would always say in Paraguay, everything is variable. There is no definitive final price point for a piece of property. People will tell you that it's 20 euro per square meter or 200 millioni per hectare. Well, I'd like to see where that data is coming from, because in terms of the information available for the properties here, unless there's a database that I'm not aware of, there's no real centralized process by which you can punch in a location and get a reliable price point per square meter or per hectare or acre or whatever you work in. It all depends on the piece of land, who you're speaking to, how much you want it, and what sort of location it's in, what sort of neighbours it's got, what sort of features it has. Does it have power? Does it have water? This property here doesn't have any natural form of water as far as I'm aware. I imagine you could drive a well, but these things need to be verified. It's generally water in most parts here, but given that there's stone works not too far from here, you'd have to check with a well expert to just ensure that you could drive a well, but I imagine that would be doable. Apart from that, there are houses close by, so they must be getting their water from some spot, but it's generally not a problem. You can usually solve that one way or the other. But just looking up there, I'll just pan my world's biggest selfie stick. I think you can probably get a glimpse of what's over there is Caacupé, which is quite cool. So you're up nice and high, which is good, both from a vista perspective, but also from a potential flood. Floods aren't a particular feature here. It's not something that everyone worries about every season, but I'm always mindful of, just to be safe. Records in Paraguay can sometimes be challenging to come across unless you know where to look, but I imagine the records that existed pre the Triple Alliance War, possibly a lot of them went by the wayside because that was such a disastrous event, but I'm sure there may be some flood records somewhere, but I don't think you would be having any problems here. And the property at some stage has been inhabited because we've got an old house, which is definitely old. And wherever there's a house in Paraguay, you'll usually find some beautiful mango trees. And those mango trees are ancient. I think, hopefully, they're mango roses, I'm not sure. There's two different types of varieties of mangoes. The mango roses are absolutely magnificent. And there's a few more mangoes there. And I imagine there'll be a lot of other different things planted around. Ancient old property. I don't know the story or the history behind it, but someone's been living here at some stage. Just a little casita. There you go. Open air toilet. Lots of ventilation, which is always a bonus. And funny enough, that little hut isn't too bad in terms of its roof. It's got a bit of issues there. I'm not sure if it will be 100% waterproof, but hey, whenever I look at something like that, I'm always thinking, what's the potential to either do something with it or at least use it as a lock-up when you're doing some work on the property or whatever. But the fact that something has been here in terms of a house, I kind of like that, because it's not just bare land that's never had anything on it. The place is used to having someone doing something on the land, and I think that's kind of healthy. Sometimes when you look at properties like this and all they've ever been used for is grazing or something like that, when you come in and you change the use of the land, I'm not saying this is common, but I think sometimes that might cause some sort of feeling amongst the locals, because they use land for grazing their cows even when it's not their land. And I don't know, there may be some cows on this land, but the fact that it has been lived on, if someone moved onto this property, well, it'd be just another day at the office, so to speak. But 7 hectares so close to Caacupé is quite a rare find, and you can do a lot with 7 hectares. And I think that because that's a fair chunk of land, it's probably reflected in the price. 7 hectares for 800 millioni. If you were to potentially go in with a few other people or someone else, it's probably a good deal. Really close to town and heaps of potential. Something that you don't come across every day. and for the right person, I think that this would be very interesting. But until the lady, I won't make any reference to her size, sings, it's still in the balance. So you've got to get any property over the line. That is part of the challenge, and it's something that we just have to deal with. But to the right people, I think it would be worth having a crack if this was what you're looking for. And just one other thing, it's got its own citrus, which looks muy bien. Look at that. Yum. I don't think that's seen any spray for a while, if ever. That's one of the features of a place like this. That tree's in need of a bit of rectification and love. Still growing. Have a look at that. That is wild. He's kind of fallen over, but he said, no, get stuffed. I'm going to keep growing. I don't care what you do to me. So, a survivor indeed. I think this is quite cool. The more I hang out here, the more I could see myself hanging out here. Yeah, and just a bit higher up on this property, the view gets really muy bien. I think here over night time you would see a lot of Caacupé over there. So close to town for this amount of land. And behind me here is like the Cerro, the small mountain, and that's part of the property, I understand. So it's nice, and I imagine that it may have possibly some of the stone that may form part of the quarry just over there. Hopefully, no guarantees, but if it did, that would be cool, because you'd have a source of decent rock and stone to do stuff with. It's the sort of stone that you make paths and all that sort of stuff, which is pretty handy. Oh man, I don't know what that is. It's kind of mandarini lemon. A lot of these trees, they're on these properties, who knows how long they've been on for, and who knows what sort of varieties they are, but look, beautiful. You couldn't do too wrong, I wouldn't think. I think that's so far in the ballpark. I think because it's a bit of a bigger property, which, as I've said before, is quite rare for this part of the world. To get anything around a couple of hectares to 7-8 hectares is really quite a challenge. Most of them have been snapped up in this pocket. A beautiful part of the world, and many people have discovered it. And viable properties that you can do something with are quite rare. So I think this is a really good find, and I'm sure someone out there might be watching this and might think, well, that looks kind of interesting. So if you are interested, reach out. The guy that's selling it is a good guy. He's a friend of mine. He supports our channel, but that has no bearing on my thoughts about a property. If I don't like it, or if I don't think it's a decent, viable option, I either won't visit it, or if I have visited it and I don't like it, I probably won't bring it to you. Or I might, just to show you what I think is something that you want to avoid. But so far, the properties that I've visited have generally been kind of okay, in the ballpark for anyone, depending on what they're after. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. Everyone's got a different view on things, Paraguay, and that's part of the reason why we love the place. Take care. Ciao.